Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life is interconnected. All life is energy, and that energy is interconnected and interdependent. So, and ancient wisdom and spirituality has been teaching us this for eons. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is It's Monday, Only in Your Mind, with author Michael Cupo. Michael, welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Thank you, Caroline. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for being with us. Now, Michael, please share with our listeners your journey of awakening, your path, your unique path, because everyone has a unique story to share that helps to inspire others to find their unique journey. So please share.
Okay. My story, I guess I had a typical upbringing. I had good parents, and I'm one of 6 children, and for whatever reason, I was never like academically with it in school, and I wasn't I was an athlete, but I wasn't a great athlete. I wasn't one of the kids that shine. So I was always like a mediocre individual, which is okay. But for me, I never was able to accept that. I always seemed to want to be somebody else. I always wanted to be the smart person, or I wanted to be the person who was good athletically. But I didn't know how to work for it or to go about it. So for me, I had friends in school, but having this inner conflict with myself. When I turned roughly 13, 14 years old, I started reaching out and drinking alcohol. And that started the process. It made me feel good. And it kind of like, I forgot all those inadequacies, that self-imposed inadequacies, you know.
Yes.
So as I got older and grew, alcohol became more accessible, I drank more. And then there was drugs mixed in, gambling. I lived in Newark, New Jersey, and I often say, like, people talk about dysfunctional families. I came from a dysfunctional neighborhood.
Okay. Well, I was born in Newark, New Jersey. Down there.
Right.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I was born in Newark, New Jersey in '62. I was born in St. James Hospital, where my mom worked for over 50. My mom worked at St. James Hospital Down Neck, they call it. You've heard of Down Neck, in the Portuguese section of Newark.
Yes, yeah.
But I was raised in the Weequahic section of Newark.
Okay.
So yes. So I am familiar with Newark. Okay.
I too was born in St. James.
St. James. We were
I
born
was born in
same,
St. James. Yeah.
Same hospital.
Yeah.
Now, what year were you born?
1958, I was born.
58. Okay, my mom was there.
So
my mom was.
Yeah, I'm 59 now.
Okay. My mom was the supervisor of the lab there for 55 years.
What are the chances of that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
My mom probably.
What are the chances of that?
Yeah, my mom probably did the blood work on you when you were born.
You're probably right. That's funny.
Yeah, what a small world. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I just say that because, like, at every corner there was a different group of people. There was guys who did B&Es, there was guys who drank, there were guys who did drugs, there were guys who gambled, and there was the sports guys. In the beginning, I was involved with the sports guys. But what I said was, like I always say it, I was like the 10th man on the baseball team, the 6th man on the basketball team. Okay. I was okay, but I was never good enough to start, and I didn't like that. So eventually I gravitated towards alcohol and drugs, and that became my main focus.
Okay.
And I did this for roughly till I was like 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And then I lost my oldest brother died from addiction problems. And that kind of forced my parents to do something with me. I had a lot of problems because of alcohol and drugs in my life. It caused me a lot of heartache. It caused other people heartache. I was never able to attain anything, any kind of material things. Everything went to that. It was like one big party. And when I was 26, and my parents forced me to get help or get out of the house, I said, okay, I'll go see what was going to happen to me, you know, what this was about. I had no idea what alcoholism was or any kind of addiction problem. So I went away, and it gave me an education, you know, but I wasn't ready to stop. And then what happened was it was a 2-year period where I would go do a 12-step program and everything would be okay for a couple of weeks, and then I would start using alcohol or drugs again. And this started a 2-year period. And then one day I just said, that's enough. And I was just at the bottom, so I thought, and I went to the 12-step program, and my life got better. Materialistically, my life got a lot better. Now, I didn't have a real clear understanding of why I did what I did. I didn't really care that I wasn't doing it anymore. Seemed to be okay with everybody. And as I stayed clean, I wasn't wasting my money anymore. I got a job, and what happened was you know, I started attaining things. I met a woman who's now my wife, and I got a job that I'm still at for 29 years. And, you know, it just seemed to progress the way you think life is supposed to be. So I have 2 children, 23-year-old daughter and a 21-year-old son. And everything was perfect. Everything was the way I wanted it.
Yes.
You know, so I thought. And after 18 years, I wound up becoming addicted to pain medication. And what happened was I understood from the 12-step meetings a little bit about being self-centered and being selfish, but I didn't have a real clear understanding of it in the heart level. To me, there's a difference from living from the head and the heart.
Yes.
And right. And what happened was I was purely stuck in my head. And this is how I lived life. I still had a lot of anger. I still had a lot of problems in my life because I didn't know how to deal with people. I didn't know how to deal with relationships. But on the outside, according to society's standards, I had it made. I was going on vacations. I was making good money. Like I said, I'm still in the same job. I was a supervisor. I mean, everything seemed on the outside to be okay. But I had to ask myself, why did I get addicted to this pain medication? It was actually after like maybe a 2-year period of being on this medication, and I was getting it from Canada. So my dealer was the FedEx man.
Okay.
That's I used to wait for him to come. Yeah, that was my dealer. I used to wait for, you know, I needed my fix.
Yeah.
So I knew I had to get off it. One day I was passing a wedding, and this was like, you know, they talk about in the Bible, and I'm not a Bible thumper or anything, but I do use some of the you know, the passages. They're very good. The size of the mustard seed. I had just a small inkling of truth when I passed a wedding, and the thought came to me, how am I going to be there for my children if I don't get off this pain medication? At the time, they were 13 and 11.
Okay.
So it stopped that squirrel cage mind syndrome, as I call it. And it made me, probably for the first time in my life, Carolyn, it was the first thought I had truly for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How am I going to be there for my children? And it started a chain reaction in motion that I wanted to go get help. Now, my wife really didn't know about the medication. She would see every now and then from the FedEx what it was, and I would just tell her it was a supplement because I work out. So, so when one day I was looking on my computer, looking to see what am I going to do? I got to get off this stuff. So I was looking at rehabs.
Okay.
And I didn't erase the history, and she went on the computer and saw the history. Right. So she approached me. Are you drinking? What I didn't drink. I haven't drank in over 30 years, thank God. But she approached me and says, are you drinking? What's going on? And I broke down and I told her. Right. And I was living a lie for so many years. And there was like, even though I was clean and sober per se, and my life was better on the outside, I was gambling. I was, there was just a lot of things going on inside me, that never changed. Yes. From when I was a child, Yes. So this started the process of me finding a place to go. So I did, through my EPA, through my employees assistance program. I found a place and I went. But I knew when I was in there that I just couldn't come out and things be the same, because I knew I used this medication for a reason. See, whenever anybody tries to alter their state of being, there's a reason behind it. Yes. You just don't do it. It's just not natural. It's just not. If you reach out for anything, and that's what I really started looking at, is that why did I have to reach? And I went all the way back to look at my childhood and what was the common denominator in all my problems. And it was that self-centeredness. So I started reading a lot of books. I just started reading book after book after book. And I started seeing patterns of how I was conditioned to reach outside myself for my answers. And I never looked inward. Oh, wow. So true. Yeah. It was like an unbelievable awakening. It really was. And I saw that, if I don't learn how to not control my mind, but at least see the thoughts for what they were, that I wasn't going to make it. And I started sitting. Because all these books pointed to the conditioned mind. And I knew if that didn't settle, I was in trouble. So the only thing that I saw that would settle it is sitting. I don't call it meditation, because when you say meditation, it gives people a preconceived idea of it's this or that. All I did was sit. And as I started sitting, my mind started settling. And I started seeing things in a different way. I started seeing things like I never saw before. An example would be the neighbor had a dog, and the dog was barking 4 o'clock in the morning. And my first thought was, I want to kill that dog. I mean, that was the first thought. Yeah, right? Yeah, poor dog. Yeah, poor dog. Right. Yeah, poor dog. Yeah. But what happened was, the next thought that came up was, why don't you just let the dog do what he does? And that's bark. And I fell back to sleep. I don't know if the dog stopped barking or not, but I fell back to sleep. And when I woke up a few hours later, I realized my whole problem wasn't life. It was me wanting it different. That was such a epiphany. It was such a eye-opening, experience. And I started experiencing many things that way. And I started seeing things that way, I started understanding more about life and the impermanence of life. And I started reading more on this. Well, I started listening to Buddhist podcasts. And they really resonated with me. And I started seeing why I suffered, and that I caused all my own suffering by my thoughts. It was amazing. But it was never my intention to write a book or to become anything or do anything. But I would talk to people like what I was discovering, what was being revealed to me. And people would say to me, well, I never looked at it like that. I never looked at it like that. And one day it just hit me that this needs to be written down, because it was all in my head and I knew it. But it wasn't at this time, though, it was in my heart. And I knew it. I had to put it down on paper. I really didn't know anything about writing a book. I barely graduated high school. So it wasn't like this dream of mine to write a book or anything like that. It was really the need of people that inspired it.
Yes.
And I was looking for a title for my book. And I was in the gym one day, and I said to this woman, "Good morning." She said, "How you doing?" And she said, "Now you know, it's Monday." and it was such an automatic response that it's Monday, you have to suffer. And it was like, oh, well, what are you going to do? And I was walking back to the locker room because I was finished, and it just hit me. You know, there's the title. Yeah. It's Monday only in your mind. And it was like such an automatic response, you know. And then I didn't know what to like name the subtitle. So it just came to me one day. I was talking to my sister. We were down in Long Beach Island, down the shore in New Jersey. And we were just throwing subtitles around. And it just hit me. You are not your thoughts. A thought comes in, and it has no energy until you give it energy. So that's what I really started seeing when I look back, you know, back when I was a child. I had a thought. I had a thought that I was inadequate, and then I would attach to it, and bang, I was inadequate, because that's what I told myself. But if I had the knowledge or the insight that I have now, I would have said, that's nonsense. You know, and that's what my message is to people, to see what is truly going on. What are you attaching to? What are you holding on to? What is causing you to suffer? And that's what I really looked at. And and I sit, and I don't sit in any special positions or anything. I just sit. But once I started sitting and my mind started settling, the oneness that you talk about, it just arises naturally. It's not something, see, this is not something that you can read all the books you want. And you could keep it, you could have a world full of knowledge, but if it doesn't go to the heart, you don't change. That's my experience, you know.
That is so true. Very, very true.
And when, right. Mm-hmm. And when I started sitting, that's what started happening. The transition, the hardest transition, the longest transition is from the head to the heart.
Yes.
And my heart started opening more and more. And the energy, my energy started changing. It wasn't all that I'm not a negative and positive person. It's more noise and quietness to me. And all that mind chatter started to subside. And I started seeing, and it's something else, the transformation that has happened, you know. I didn't do it. And I often say that I'm only the instrument, you know. Right. It's beautiful, you know, and it's been 10 years that I've been on this journey now, this path, and it keeps expanding. I keep going deeper, and what the deepness is that true oneness that you talk about is not separating, because in my book, the main subject is the conditioned mind and the I self, and how the I self is the ego, is that energy is what causes all the problems in our world, in our whole society, whether it's America, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Turkey, it doesn't matter. Well, it just doesn't matter. Because once I see me as separate from you, it's separation. But there is none.
Right.
Not truly.
Right.
Because it's all energy, as you said.
Yes.
And once you see that, it just, the transformation is unbelievable.
Yes.
You know, and that's my message to people.
Wow, that is so beautiful because like I awoke to the truth of oneness in 2007, actually from a quantum physics film documentary, What the Bleep. And I've been studying metaphysics off and on, metaphysics and spirituality off and on for 30 years or more. But I didn't get it until, like you said, when it wasn't a mental thing, it was a heartfelt thing. When I understood the truth of oneness, that there is no separation. Separation is an illusion. Science has proven this. And not like I needed science to prove it, but science has proven over 100 years ago. So we're not even talking new science.
Right.
Yeah, over 100 years ago, science has proven that everything is interconnected. All the things we're using now, your iPhone, my computer, quantum physics could not exist if everything wasn't all connected. That energy is all interconnected. That's
Right.
where all of our modern day technology comes from, the truth of oneness. So and it's not mainstream yet, where this should be like a no-brainer to everybody. That
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, it should be at this point. But yeah, that all is. And so when I understood oneness, like you said, at the heart level, not the head level, but the heart level, my whole world changed.
Right.
Yeah, everything opened up, and I saw everyone as a part of me, an aspect of me. So I knew, like, if I try to deliberately hurt someone, I'm just deliberately hurting myself. So and that was, I love how you shared your story in such beautiful detail for our listeners, because so many people I know can identify with what you just shared, your journey of waking up to who you really are, which is not separate. And it wasn't something outside of you. It was something within you. When you turned within, quiet that brain chatter that when we say, sometimes I have to say to my mind, shut up, just, and I call it meditation, but it's just deep breathing. I just focus on my breath. Sometimes I use a mantra to quiet the mind, but it's more deep breathing. And I'm into working out every day now, which has been six months. I feel great. And my workout is a meditation, so it's a moving meditation. So, but whatever, like you said, whatever works for a person to quiet that mind and look within and tap into that truth that is within all of us. That is amazing. Yes. So
it truly is. Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes. Now tell us more about your journey with the book. So you wrote the book 10 years ago.
The book I wrote about five years ago. 5. It took me about a year to write it, and then to get it published and all that. Self-published it.
Okay.
Because nobody wanted to touch it. I mean, it's great. I mean, look, I have a message of consciousness and trying to get it to expand in an unconscious world. Not easy,
Yes, and
not easy.
It's actually getting more and more. It's getting easier and easier. Now, my inspiration was to do. I've been asked by listeners to write a book, which I started on Mother's Day, so I am in the process of writing my first book. But my inspiration came in the middle of the night in January 2015 to do an internet radio show. And in the middle of the night, Spirit's like, and I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't know what a podcast was at that time. I just got up in the middle of the night and Googled, how do you do it? How do you start an internet radio show?
Right.
I discovered Blog Talk Radio, and I've been doing now my show for 2.5 years. So that was my inspiration. But the way things are, like you said, consciousness, it's all about waking up to truth, to who we really are inside and looking for that truth within. Like you said, when you were younger, you were looking for answers on the outside. And when we find out the answers really are within us. And and just following that passion and following guidance from within is where it will lead us to where we're supposed to be. So that is so amazing. So tell us more about the book.
Well, what the whole premise is of what you said is, it's not that people, what really inspired me is it's not that people are stupid or anything. They just don't know.
Exactly. They're asleep. That's what I say. Wake
up. They just don't know.
They just, they're unaware.
So, yeah. They're just unaware. So my whole process with the book and with what I do now is to explain what the conditioned mind is, so people can see why they do what they do. There's so many things to really discuss. I mean, one of the things I always ask people, did you ever do something and said to yourself, why did I do that? And everybody says yes. Yes. And then I say, well, do you realize that the mind that told you to do it is the same mind that is questioning it? Mm-hmm. And they go, And that is like revealing, Yes. So it's all about the attachment to this conditioning that's in place. Yes. That isn't nobody's fault. Right. But I look at taking my own self. I write a daily blog. I post on like 100 groups in Facebook that have asked me to post. Right. And it's always to make you think. It's never to give you answers. I write strictly from my experience of what I see. Mm-hmm. It's never telling people what to do, or it's always what I've seen and my insights, and I just have a very clear understanding of what the conditioned mind is and how that's at the core of everything. Yes. And like I said, it's not anybody's fault. You take on your parents' religion. I mean, there's school teachers. There's so many different things. Because I never felt good about myself in school early on, you're gonna draw attention to yourself one way or another. So I became the class clown. Okay. And as I became the class clown, I became the problem child to teachers. My parents had to come to school every year, and not only one teacher understood me. That I would have probably been classified as maybe ADD today, because I needed one-on-one teaching, and only one teacher picked that up, and I made the honor roll with one teacher. Awesome. All the other teachers, I was a problem. They couldn't get it. They didn't understand it. That I needed more one-on-one than a classroom setting. It wasn't beneficial to me. So I got lost in the system. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then when you start using these, and it's always reaching outside yourself. And when you start using these things that are destructive, it causes a lot of pain and suffering in the world. Yeah. To you and to those that love you. And like I said, I lost a brother, and there's a lot, there's a lot of suffering in the world that doesn't have to be, if people would just wake up to the fact and become more responsible and stop reaching outside themselves and look inward. Yes. I don't limit my book, and I wouldn't do it, to the addict, because what I discovered is we're all addicts. Yes. We just use different things. And the most thing that people use is their thoughts. That's the thing that people are truly addicted to, because they don't know how to take that step back and just be still. The Bible says be still. It doesn't say read another book, go to another program. I mean, I often say that Jesus went in the desert, went for 40 days. That's what the story is, you know.
Yes.
He didn't take a stack of books with him, you know. I often say, like the Buddha, it took the Buddha 6 years. And he went to towns all over the country. He didn't stop in every town he went to the library. He sat.
Yes.
He sat.
He was still.
Right.
Yes.
Even people use God in the way that, okay, we're going to go to church every Sunday. So what are you doing? You're trying to get a better seat in heaven. You're trying to move up on the angelic chain of command. Come on. What's, like you said, what's going on right now? See, the most important thing is because people don't understand that there needs to be people to show them. Right. Because it all revolves around being in the present moment.
Yes.
I mean, that really is the key.
Yes.
Because people don't understand it, but I've often asked people, well, when you go out in nature, you feel good, right? Yeah. I said, do you know why that is? Well, no. Because there's nothing else. You're there. There's nothing else. No distractions. Right. See, when you get the mind distractions, the noise in the head, the dog chasing its tail syndrome, you just go round and round and round. There's no peace. So you're always reaching for something. Yes. And until you find that inner peace by looking inside, it's not going to just happen. And if you're waiting for miracles, you're probably going to die first, you know? So that's what I really started teaching people about how, like when you take a breath, I use the breath, or I'll use like this, I'll use the sensation of touch. See, the moment I do this, I'm present.
Yes.
So the more that you sit and develop discipline, the mind will wander. I never try to quiet my mind. The mind wanders.
Right.
But then this is my anchor. So I stay anchored. So my mind wanders. When I catch it, I go back to my anchor. And as I do that, the mind's wandered less and less. And I'm able to sit more and more. And as I did that, you naturally are overcome by the feeling of oneness. You start to have compassion that you never had before. You start to understand oneness that you never had before. But it all boils down to stopping, having the squirrel cage mind settle. And you have to put something in place to allow that. Another book is just reaching out. And I say this, I mean, I've been thrown out of a lot of 12-step programs. But I say the program, it has its good. I'm not denouncing it. But after a while, that becomes the substitute for the drugs and alcohol. See, there's a video I made early on my website, and it's if you need something to complete you, you're missing it.
Yes, so true.
Because completeness is in now. I'm not on a mission to save the world. I'm not on a mission to put love out into the world. I'm on a mission not even on a mission. I just do what's in front of me. Okay. I've written over 1,500 articles.
Okay.
In a 3-year period, and I post them every day on Facebook, WordPress, Instagram, and numerous other sites every day. And it's not an attribute of Michael Cupo. It's an attribute of oneness, of stillness, because it arises. People say, how do you do that every day? It's not a struggle.
Right.
Because it comes from my heart. I just write what's there. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. You know, one day people will see the value of it, because they really are all based in real life situations. I tell people all the time, I'm a regular person. I have a job, a wife, 2 kids. I have a house, the roof leaks, the car breaks down, the daughter, breaks up with boyfriends, and my son, gets in trouble.
Yes.
How do you maintain that of stillness and remain in the flow? That's the key,
Yes.
is to remain the instrument,
Yes. Yes. So
to allow the universe to do what it, and you can only do that when you keep your head where your feet are, when you're present.
Yes.
So you develop things that keep you present. Mindfulness practices, you watch your steps, watch your walking, use the breath. See, the moment you take a breath, that's why somebody say they're going to hit a golf ball, and they take a deep breath. The moment you take a breath, you're instantly present.
Yes.
You can't take a breath in the past and future.
Right.
You can't take a breath in the past or the future. It's impossible.
Right.
So and you're anchored. You're in the moment. This is the only place life happens.
So true.
But the conditioned mind, the conditioning, the distractions are so deeply, interwoven in our existence that it causes our separation. It causes our separation from each other. So now I could look at you, and if I'm conditioned, I look at you as black.
Right.
But what does that mean? That's the nonsense. And all the other nonsense that goes on because somebody is born in a different part of the world. All the separation, the Republicans, the Democrats, and I don't get on a tangent about any of that stuff,
right.
Because it's all about oneness. And until we really see that, nothing's going to change in our world.
Yes.
It's very difficult because the loving energy is present.
Yes.
But the conditioned energy is it's the masses. It's very ingrained.
Right. Like what we were saying about science, like what we just said about the science. This is not new. Quantum physics is not new science, but the masses, mainstream, is not aware that the reason they have a cell phone and a computer is due to quantum physics, which the fundamental of quantum physics is oneness. Is that we are all one, everything is energy, and that energy is all interconnected.
There's no separation.
Yes, there is no separation. And so this should be, like I said, a no-brainer, because look at all the technology we're using today.
Right.
But it's not the masses. That's why it's like, and like you said, it's not their fault. It's conditioning. No. It's conditioning, and it's their sleep. So for me, there's no judgment. If they're unaware and asleep, it's like I use the example of a baby, a sleeping baby. Now, if a baby's sleeping and unaware of what's happening around him, we're not gonna say, oh, that baby's bad. It's a baby. So that's how I look at humanity in the masses right now. It's still in its infancy. But it is gradually and slowly awakening to the truth and awakening its consciousness to who it truly is, which is one with everything. And you touched upon religion. For me, one of the things, because I was brought up going to Catholic school in Newark. Started in Newark, but then I was sent away to Oakland, New Jersey. But so when I was in Catholic school, my dad was very strict, and children are to be seen and not heard. So I'm going to mass and having religion every day, young, 4 or 5 years old, and I have all these questions that are not resonating with me at a 4-year-old. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but I couldn't ask. I was forbidden to ask these questions. But for me, traditional religion has God up there in the sky and us down here. It separates us from God.
Right.
When I understood,
it causes separation.
Yeah, there's no separation from God. We are one with God. We are. You could think of God as
because
it's a little cell, like we're a cell in God's body. and we can't be separated. Yes, go ahead.
Right. You're never separated from your mother. Your mother's always your mother.
Yes.
No matter what, she's always your mother. There's no separation.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not seen, And then what really happens is you really start understanding what true love is. Most people don't know how to love themselves, because if they did, they would never do something and say, why did I do that? You would never do it. You would understand that. You would never look in the mirror and say, I'm fat. It doesn't mean that you can't improve yourself, but you would love yourself and accept yourself exactly as you are. And not, one of the most important things to understand is the moment you want something different, you are instantly discontented. That's the energy that becomes your life. The energy of discontentment. The moment you want things different, it doesn't mean you can't make improvements.
Right.
But attaching to needing that for fulfillment is where the problems occur, because, when I get this, then I'll be happy. When this happens, all right, then, and you're always searching, you're always moving on to the next fulfillment. All right, I want this different. I want this different. One of the things I always say is when you can accept the red lights the way you do the green ones, then you'll know that you're doing okay,
Yes.
But it's difficult.
Yes. It the reason it's difficult is because of the conditioning. Like you said, conditioning from parents, conditioning from teachers, conditioning from society, conditioning from religion. All this conditioning from the media, mass media, all this is conditioning.
It's unbelievable. You have a talent, and this is part of my thing is that people, are you going to write another book? No, I don't have to write another book. I don't have to do anything. I don't need anything to be different. I sat with that because in the beginning, what happened was I was pushing the book. I think everybody who writes a book thinks it's the #1 bestseller. So I'm pushing. I'm sending away to things. I'm doing radio interviews, and there was something about it though that I was missing. So I sat with it, and I realized that I was missing the journey. I made a destination, and I sat with the fact. Okay, I just put it out there, and I said, if somebody gave me $500,000 to write another book, and if my book went on the New York Times bestseller list, what would really change? I would become a prisoner to society, to the world, and in the Bible it says, "Be in the world, not of it." And that's what I learned. And I realized at that time, I don't need anything. I'm not trying to become anything. I'm not trying to be anything. I don't need my book to be anything. I just do what's in front of me, and it's so free. It really is. Because it keeps that oneness. I'm not separate from anybody. It's why I do what I do, is to just try to make people see it for themselves. I won't put a program together because I don't want anybody to follow me. I don't have followers,
Right.
I have members of there's over almost 5,000 members on my Facebook page for my book, but they're members.
Right.
And I tell people, if you don't agree with what I write, go away. Don't read it.
Well, everybody has their own perspective, and I see that because sometimes I look and I'm like, my perspective can be very different than other perspectives, but I say I respect. Like I don't claim to be of any one religion. I have respect for all religions. So whatever your belief, whatever your perspective, to me, that's where there's no right or wrong. It is someone else's perspective, might be different than my perspective, but that doesn't make that person wrong and me right, or vice versa. It's just, okay, now when you understand and open yourself up to the truth of oneness, you have an appreciation and respect for all beliefs, for all perspectives, even if you're not meaning you don't get rid of your own. You have your own, because that comes from within. Oh, we just lost you off camera. Michael, are you there?
Okay.
Now you're back. Okay. All right. So, okay, I'm not familiar with those iPhones, but now you're back.
Yeah, the battery.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was charging, but it wasn't. So now it is.
Now it's charging. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, see, exactly what you're talking about. When I said before about people loving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
See, I learned early on that I was conditioned to do things a certain way, and there was no way around it. And it wasn't easy for people to it's not easy for people to grasp that Adolf Hitler just did what he was conditioned to do. Everybody today, my article the title was something like "Stop Playing God." Everybody wants to make a judgment that this is this way, that's that way, and everybody wants to play God. But we don't know what's going on in the world. We don't know existence, what existence is really about. So when I started understanding that I was only conditioned the way that I was, and that's why I did what I did, it was very freeing. So if I'm not going to judge me, no matter what you do, you're only doing what you're conditioned to do. It's not a right or wrong or good or bad thing. But everybody wants to play God and put that label on it that, oh, look at me, I'm not like that. What all that does is that separating energy. See, there's so much separating energy in place, and people are just so unaware of it, you know?
Yes.
So that's kind of like what we have to do.
Yes.
Is show people that. And who gets it, and who doesn't, doesn't. It's not up to me.
Right. And I always say, even it's like using the baby that's sleeping. If the baby still sleeps and doesn't wake up, it's okay. It's okay. Right. So humanity is like a sleeping baby that's gradually, some of the cells of the body of humanity are gradually waking up. And some are still staying asleep, but there's no judgment. As if you're asleep or awake, it's no right or wrong. It's no judgment.
No.
I always say that everyone is operating at their highest level of awareness. So, like you use Hitler as an example, he was operating at his highest level of awareness. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Conversations with God book series, but in book 1 of God, Conversation with God, it says Hitler went to heaven. And when you understand this, you understand God. So that's in the first chapter or second chapter of book 1 of Conversations with God. And I use that example a lot, that we're all operating. So there's no judgment, because we're all operating at our highest level of awareness.
Right. See, that was beautiful for me, because like I said, this was never my aspiration to do this, to be like this, or to write a book. Really, 10 years ago, the only thing I wanted was peace in my life. That's all I wanted. What am I missing? That I'm not at peace. And all this happened, but it's not a result of my thinking or my education, or it's a result of stillness, and this is what arose. And it's a beautiful place to be, because it allows me not to attach to it and not make this about anything, about having to save the world. And I go about my business, I go about my awakening like everyday life. I have a regular job, so I don't have to depend on my book sales or to do anything for my income. So that helps out, you know.
And it's just
so it's more about meeting people like yourself. And
yes, and sharing your story to help inspire. Same thing with this show. This radio show is totally nonprofit. It costs very little to broadcast this show, so it's not a source of income. It's a source of sharing. And being able, now we live in a world where I could do this from the comfort of my home office and share it with the world. So it's exciting. We're living in
it is. It really is, you know, because you don't know where it's going, and it doesn't have to go anywhere.
Right.
You know, but it's just putting one foot in front of the other. It's always the present moment. It's never about anything. It's the inner discovery.
Yes.
It's really what I always look at is what am I attaching to? What is blocking my energy from being more of the instrument? And that's what that's what I'm always looking at. Wow, look at me trying to play God. You know, that this should be this way, that should be that. No, just be still, and let life, let the energy do what it's going to do.
Also, the quote from the Bible, which I love: "Be still and know that I am God." So, in truth, we are all a divine aspect of God. So, what that quote is saying is: be still, quiet that mind, and know that you are God, but you are God of your universe. But everybody else is also God of their universe. So there's no, it's not about God, you know, I'm God and I'm going to judge you. No, because that other you is another you, which is also a reflection of God. We're all reflection of God. So, and true, I love the quote from the Bible: be still and know that I am God. So that is beautiful. Yes. But
I use one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I love that you touched on enjoy the journey. Because that's what life is. Life is a journey to be enjoyed. Because we always say, okay, I want this, I want that, I want the big house, I want the car, I want this, I want that. But anyway, so we're always like, you know, like a hamster on a wheel, and not, or a dog chasing his tail. But it's about enjoying. It's not the destination. It's about enjoying, being in the now moment.
Right.
Enjoying the journey. So I love that you touched upon that.
Oh, it's part of the issue is see, and you touched on it before, and it's all the difference in the world. Most of the world they're stuck in the mental mind, the mental fabrications that they make up. That's all part of the conditioning. And until you get to a point where you can see that, you don't see the oneness. You don't see truth. It's very hard to, like, people ask me, well, what's truth? What's this? It's like one of the things I often say is, you know, it talks about the Bible, about not understanding, but the peace that passes all understanding. Yes. The problem is everybody's trying to understand it.
And it says surpasses all understanding. But they missed that part. But and true.
Oh, let me read another book to grab. Oh, let me sit and meditate so I can get. No.
But actually, what that phrase, the peace that surpasses all understanding. Of course, I first heard it in church, but I didn't get it at the heart level until I understood oneness. When I understood oneness from my heart, that there is no separation. Separation is just an illusion, and that I am one with God and can never be separated from God. I am a divine aspect of God, and everyone and everything is a divine aspect of God. When I understood that, I understood the peace that surpasses all understanding.
Right.
Yes.
No, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Because it's like, I don't explain truth. I don't explain God to people. People want an explanation of something you can't touch, taste, see, feel. Most people don't hear.
Right.
And how are you going to explain that? Truth. Mm-hmm. People have to, and I often say this, there's not versions of truth. There's versions of perception of truth. But there really is only one truth, and that's love. That's really the only truth there is.
And that's my definition of God. God is unconditional love. That's
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Nothing more.
Nothing more.
Mm-hmm. Nothing more. And there can't be judgment. There just can't be judgment in that realm. But that has to be grasped on the heart level. Mm-hmm. And it's why I do what I do, because most people are stuck in that mental fabrication of life being this way or that way. 99% of the people, it's the insights that I've gotten are unbelievable. Of myself, of seeing myself always reaching for pleasure. And that's just all part of the distraction, Right. Everybody likes the New York Yankees because they're winners. Everybody likes, the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're winners. Everybody wants to be a winner, Yes. Nobody's going to take the last place team and say, well, that's going to be my team.
Well, my team, I'm not into sports at all, for real. But there was one thing, I watch 3 football games a year. I watch when the Eagles play the Giants, because I root for the Eagles. And the Eagles almost always beat the Giants. It just is. And they just did it a week or 2 Sundays ago. Eagles beat the Giants. I have my Eagle hat. I have my Eagle jersey. I have Eagle pajamas. I have an Eagle blanket. But that and the Super Bowl, the only 3 games I watch. But yeah, and I always feel, and I said the Eagles may not, they have never won a Super Bowl, and they may not, but I know the one thing the Eagles can do, they can beat the Giants. So. That's my little. That's
you know what? Part of the whole issue with the sports and with the music and movies and it's an entertainment.
Yes.
But people make it like it's do or die, like it's real, like. And the ego energy in place, like you have the Oscars, they create these awards to pat themselves on the back and see all that energy. People don't get all that energy separates.
Yes.
Because they're the haves and the have-not. A lot of people, you're born with a God-given talent to sing or dance or act or play an instrument. And now when you make it who you are, you separate yourself from somebody who doesn't have that energy. And that's something I want,
Right. I understand.
I won't do that.
Yes, I understand what you say. Now, for me, the whole thing with the Eagles and the Giants, it's just a fun,
it's fun.
If the Giants happen to beat the Eagles,
it's fun.
I never get upset, but I actually do.
I'm a Yankee fan, right?
Okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah, and you feel
they're going into playoffs now,
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't affect my life.
Exactly.
It means it's entertainment.
Exactly.
I really watch it more so, Caroline, to have something to talk to people about.
Yes.
Because nobody wants to hear this stuff. Like my wife is not into this.
Oh,
not she supports me, of course,
right.
But she's a good person,
right?
Naturally,
right.
And it's not for me to. You lead by example. That's
Exactly.
the key.
Exactly. So even if she's not into this, quote unquote, into this, I know she sees the change in you over the
Right,
last 10
right.
years. And I know she
Correct.
must appreciate the change in you over the last 10
Yeah,
years. So it's
right, because
good.
it's by example.
Yes. Yes.
It's talk is cheap. Look, there's a lot of so-called spiritual people out there that are given their message.
You're
You
right.
know,
That are not
follow my program, follow
right.
this, do
Right. But
that,
are they living it themselves? Exactly. Because a
and
lot
that's not. Is it really the true message? See, I'm
yes.
not like I said before. I'm not a positive negative person. I'm stillness. Shh, be
Yes.
still and know that I am. You know,
Right. Right.
allow the universe to work through you.
Yes.
Learn how to just be and
Yes.
allow the universe to take you. See, that's what happened to me. I must have always been a writer. But the distractions, the creativity was so matted down, you know, that I never realized it. Now when my heart opened, the creativity just started flowing.
Yes.
And just because you love everybody, it doesn't mean everybody's going to love you back.
But also understand a lot of people are talking oneness, which is a great thing. It's beautiful. But like you said, are you walking?
Well,
Just not, you got to
yeah,
walk your talk. Yes.
There's a big difference, and I could tell people, I could tell right away from somebody who it's in here in their head and somebody where it comes from the heart.
Right.
Because the heart doesn't want. The heart's not telling you to do anything. The heart just loves. That's all it does. I have a passion for this because I see the suffering.
Yes.
So all I want to do is share with people, and maybe you get a person that, oh, wow,
Yes.
you know, that helped me.
Yes.
That's all you want to do. It's
exactly.
not, I'm not anything. I'm not anything special. What happened. That's all.
Right.
That's the message.
Right.
You know, learn how to be still. Learn how to become aware of the distractions that keep you in the bondage of self.
Yes.
And once the less that the self is in control, well, you're naturally left with love. Yes. Naturally. You don't have to do anything. See, the problem is that part of the problem is the thought of love isn't love.
Yes. Well, I was going to say what you had touched upon before is self-love, which is truly everything comes from within. And
right.
when you learn to love yourself, look in that mirror and say, like you said, of course, if you want things to improve or change, that's fine. But like if you feel like you're a little overweight and you want to lose a few pounds, you want to start eating healthier,
that's fine.
But when you look in the mirror, you say, I love me now. And you start from that love. It all comes from that love. So please, Michael, please share with our listeners how they can follow you, follow your work, your website, share all of that good stuff with our listeners. Oh, Michael, I hope
I have a website. Okay. It's
you're freezing a little. No, you were freezing a little bit, but I think you're back. Yes, please share your website.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
I have a website. It's www.mondayinyourmind.com. And there's links on there to all my writings and pages, Facebook, WordPress, LinkedIn. I mean, I share on all those pages. You know, you can follow. You can become a member of my group on Facebook. You could friend me. I mean, I get friend requests every day. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. You know,
awesome.
And it's just what I've been told, and I know it's just the way that my writing's developed. Is I get people to think.
Okay.
That's all I do. You know, you have to that squirrel cage mind something, see, that's what happened to me when I passed that wedding that day. My mind stopped for that split second. And when in that space, when you start creating that space, that's when you start really seeing. That's when the heart opens.
Yes.
And that's what the discipline of being in the moment and sitting does. It allows you to create more space between your thoughts. It happens naturally. You don't actually do it, but the discipline, the incessant mind slows, and all of a sudden you're not thinking in the same way. You're just not. You're not looking in the mirror and saying I'm fat, because what happens is even when you lose the weight, there's only going to be something else.
Right.
There's always something else. It's never like it.
Well, I have to, as a witness, I can say, because I've gone up and down with my weight many times, and I just came down. And I don't weigh myself, but I came down 6 sizes in 6 months just recently. And I can tell you, I feel the same as when 6 months ago. I feel the same.
Right.
So, but
exactly.
I feel good. I do feel good about the progress, and I'm good.
Right, of course.
But I'm still the same person. Yes.
Correct. Right.
Yes.
Right. That's the real message, is to really watch the attachment. See, I'm writing an article now, and it's Everything Crumbles, because everything is impermanent, and one day, just like that, boom, life is over.
Everything changes. That's life.
Right.
But yes, okay. What I want to do, I want to invite you and everybody that's listening to Global Oneness Day, which is hosted by Humanity's Team. It's a free all-day online telesummit. And that is October 24th. It's a Tuesday, October 24th. And you can go to register for free to globalonenesssummit.org, or just Google Global Oneness Day. It's the 8th annual. This started in 2010, and I'm actually producing all of Global Oneness Day with Humanity's Team this year, so I'm very honored to be producing it. But it's a free 12-hour webinar, and it'll be, if you miss any part of it, it'll still be airing for free for 48 hours after Global Oneness Day.
Okay.
So I want to share that with everybody. I want to thank you so much, Michael. And yes, I'm definitely going to be following you on Facebook and keeping in touch, because that's how we met. We met on Facebook, and we keep in touch on Facebook. Well, thank you so much. Thank
you, Caroline.
I so appreciate it, and I so enjoyed this
Me too.
conversation. It's been wonderful. So
peace to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll be